Listen closely, because what happened on this plane left every passenger absolutely frozen. Three little triplets walked into first class holding hands, quiet, scared, just trying to follow the rules, when a flight attendant suddenly snapped and kicked them out in front of everyone. But what she didn't know, the pilot who heard every word was their father, and the moment he stepped out of the cockpit, the entire flight changed in seconds. If you're part of the Black Visionaries family, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment where our family's watching. Stop right there. Because what happened on this flight is something people still talk about. If you've ever seen a moment so unfair, so instantly humiliating, that it left the entire room silent, then you'll understand exactly why this story spread like wildfire. It begins early in the morning inside a busy Seattle airport where three 7-year-old triplets, Emily, Noah, and Grace, walked into Terminal B holding hands. They were small, shy, dressed in matching little sweaters, and trying their best to stay brave as they faced their first flight across the country without their mother. After her passing, the children were finally moving to live permanently with their father, a man they had only known through video calls these last few months. Their guardian for the day, Linda, a kind woman in her late 50s, guided them gently through security, reminding them to stay close and not be scared. Everything was going smoothly until they boarded the plane. The moment they stepped into the first-class cabin, the mood shifted. Passengers looked up, surprised to see 3 children and an older woman entering the expensive section. But the real problem began when the lead flight attendant, Rebecca, a woman in her mid-40s with a stiff posture and a voice sharp enough to cut glass, stormed up the aisle like the kids had set off an alarm. "Excuse me," she snapped, stopping inches from Linda. "First class is for paying passengers only. You can't bring children into this section without the proper tickets." Her tone wasn't questioning. It was accusing. Linda blinked in disbelief. "Mom, we do have the proper tickets. These are our assigned seats." Rebecca crossed her arms. "I don't think so. These seats cost more than most people make in a week. Are you sure you're in the right row?" Her eyes swept over the triplets, worn backpacks, nervous faces, and her expression hardened even more. "Follow me, please. Coach is in the back." That was it. No checking boarding passes, no verifying anything. She simply decided they didn't belong. The children froze. Grace's lower lip trembled. Emily clutched her drawing. Noah whispered, "Did we do something wrong?" And that single sentence made Linda's heart shatter. "No, sweetheart," she said softly. "You didn't." But Rebecca was already waving them out of the aisle, loudly enough for every first-class passenger to hear. "Let's keep the cabin clear. These seats are not for them." All eyes turned toward the kids, judgmental, cold, whispering behind their hands. The triplets walked back toward Coach silently, their heads down, their little shoes tapping the floor like they were carrying years of weight. And yet, what no one knew, what Rebecca absolutely did not know, was that this moment would become the biggest mistake of her entire career. Because up in the cockpit, preparing the final safety checks, the pilot, Captain Daniel Hayes, had been watching, and he recognized them immediately. Back in coach, the triplets squeezed into the cramped seats. They tried to be brave, but the embarrassment lingered thick in the air. Passengers whispered again, "Why put kids in first class? They probably tried sneaking in. Look at them, doesn't match the section." Emily pulled out the drawing she'd made, a picture of a pilot with big warm eyes. Noah took out his small toy airplane, rubbing the nose of it with his thumb. Grace held onto her backpack straps like she might float away without them. Linda sat beside them, ashamed and angry, but too overwhelmed to fight back. "Your father wouldn't have wanted this," she whispered. "He really wanted this day to be special for you." Hugh, a man across the aisle, shook his head. "Kids go through enough. They don't need adults embarrassing them too." Meanwhile, Rebecca strutted proudly back toward first class, whispering to a younger attendant beside her, "I've worked flights for 20 years. I can tell who belongs in first class. People try to get away with all kinds of things." The younger attendant frowned. "But they looked like they had real tickets." They didn't look the part," Rebecca cut in. "I know what I'm doing." But arrogance has a way of catching up with people, especially when they least expect it. 30 minutes later, turbulence rattled the plane slightly. The seatbelt sign blinked on. Most people settled down, but then something unusual happened. The cockpit door cracked open. Captain Hayes stepped into the cabin, tall, calm, early 40s, carrying the silent authority that made everyone instinctively straighten up. He slowly scanned the rows, his eyes moving from one seat to the next searching. It only took him a few seconds to find them. The triplets, still holding hands, still trying to act like nothing hurt. His heart almost collapsed. He walked straight toward them, and the cabin fell silent as passengers realized something was happening. When he reached their row, Noah looked up, eyes wide. "Dad." The passengers gasped. Linda nearly burst into tears. Emily threw her arms around him, and Grace finally let her tears fall. Captain Hayes pulled all three children into his embrace. Hey, I'm here. I'm so sorry. I heard everything." Linda shook her head. "Captain, I tried telling the attendant, but she didn't listen." "Shit." "She didn't need to listen," he said. "She needed to treat you with basic respect." He stood slowly, turning around with a calmness that carried more power than shouting ever could. His eyes locked on Rebecca, who stood frozen near the first-class curtain, suddenly pale. "Rebecca," he said, voice low and steady. "I need a word." Passengers turned. Some leaned in, pretending not to listen but very clearly listening. The younger attendant slipped backward, sensing a storm was coming. Rebecca walked over stiffly. "Captain, I didn't know they were. I just thought. You didn't think," he said gently but firmly. "You assumed." She swallowed hard. "You removed 3 children from their assigned seats without checking their tickets. Seats I purchased for them. Full fare. Because this is their first flight since their mother passed away." The cabin gasped again. Captain Hayes continued, his voice breaking the slightest bit. "Today was meant to be comforting. Their first day moving in with me permanently. And instead you humiliated them." Passengers looked down. Some shook their heads. A woman whispered, "Poor kids." Another man said, "Unbelievable." Rebecca trembled. "Captain, I am so sorry. I didn't know." "That's the problem," he said. "You didn't need to know whose children they were. You just needed to treat them like human beings." Rebecca stepped back, unable to respond. Her pride shattered by the truth echoed through the aisles. Captain Hayes crouched again beside his children. "How about we fix this?" "Ho." He took their hands and gently walked them back toward first class. And something incredible happened. People stood up. One passenger said, "Captain, please, take my seat instead." Another added, "Let the kids enjoy the space." Soon the whole section offered to switch. But the captain shook his head with gratitude. "Thank you, everyone, but these seats were theirs all along." He settled them in, made sure they were comfortable, gave Linda a reassuring nod, and quietly returned to the cockpit. For the rest of the flight, the cabin held a different kind of atmosphere, softer, kinder, like everyone had just been reminded that the world is supposed to be gentle to children. Even adults who didn't have kids felt something shift inside them. Near landing, Rebecca slowly approached the triplets. Her voice cracked. "I'm truly sorry. I was wrong." Grace looked up at her with the innocent honesty only kids carry. "It's okay, but next time, ask before you decide." Those few words hit harder than anything else had that day. When the plane touched down and taxied to the gate, the passengers didn't applaud the landing, they applauded the captain. And the kids. And the reminder that compassion is still a choice people can make. Because at the end of the day, kindness costs nothing. But failing to show it can cost you everything. Thanks for watching, Black Visionaries family. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me where our family's watching. See you in the next story.